Studio 1 for another build of the day. Today is one that I've been really excited for and I've been waiting all week to do, and this is the build of the day on how to set up a live stream. If you guys have been watching the videos that we've been doing and have been curious to learn how to set these up yourself, well, today's video is going to answer all those questions and it's going to walk you through the process for setting up a stream, just like I do every day for these builds. The core of this build today is going to be this small little Blackmagic box here, and I'll hold it up so our close-up camera can get it there. But this is called the Blackmagic Mini Recorder, and it is a device that'll connect a HDMI or an SDI signal from a camera and send it through Thunderbolt into a MacBook or any other computer with a Thunderbolt input. Today we're using a Mac Mini, that's why we've got the monitor set up here. And I'll be sending a feed so you guys will be able to see my screen as I'm setting this up. And I wanted to go through first how to set up a very, very simple single camera live stream for anyone out there who wants to do something very slimmed down, bare bones, and very simple. So to do that, I'm going to be running a signal from a Canon 5D Mark IV, just a very, very simple DSLR. You could use any camera feasibly that's able to output a clean HDMI or SDI signal. So if you own any of your own mirrorless or DSLR cameras, you can do this same method for setting up. Just make sure that it's able to output that clean 1080p image. Certain DSLRs and mirrorless cameras can output a signal, but it won't be clean, meaning the image and the display settings of your camera will actually go out over that signal, and that means it would go out into your stream, so you wouldn't want that. 5D Mark IV here, though, will be perfect for what we're trying to do. And then for our lens, I wanted to keep it very simple, so we're going with the good old Canon 24-105. For anyone who's looking to get started doing professional video, this is a phenomenal lens to start with because it's basically a jack-of-all-trades lens. It packs everything you would need into one lens. You've got a wide angle at 24, you've got a telephoto at 105, you've got autofocus, image stabilization, and when you need it, you have macro capability as well. So it's a phenomenal lens that's going to do everything you need. So for one lens to live on for a live stream, it's perfect. And then for audio, we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to use the Rode VideoMic Pro. This has been a staple for DSLR and mirrorless camera video production for years now, and that's just because the internal mics are not great. They're not directional in any way, and they just do a kind of all-around pickup. Good for scratch audio, but for hearing audio while you're talking on a stream or something like that, you'll want something a bit more directional, and this guy will be perfect for that. And then we'll just have a HDMI cable to run from the mini HDMI of our camera into our computer. Now, aside from all of the bits that we have here, there are some software pieces that you'll need to get, and I'm going to show you guys that now. The first software is required. This is just necessary. It's called Blackmagic Desktop Video. We'll have links to all of this software underneath the YouTube video, so if you guys haven't gone there yet, go there and check these links out, and you can find everything there. But you'll just go to this website here and hit Capture and Playback, and then scroll down and you'll see Desktop Video 11.5 there. If you're watching this down the line, there may be further updates, but just get whatever the most up-to-date version of this is. Desktop Video is the program that'll bridge the gap between our Blackmagic Mini recorder and our computer, and it's essentially going to take the high-end video signal from our camera and convert it to a data signal that the computer is then going to be able to process. The other program that I highly recommend getting to use is called OBS Studio, and you can find that here. It's a free download, and this is a live streaming software that allows you to essentially have a TriCaster, a switcher, and everything built into one program so that you can send the stream out, but also make changes to it, record it, and things like that. And I'll talk about how to set this up later on in the video. The last one that you guys may be interested in trying out is called Restream. For anyone who's watched our streams, you'll know that we go live to multiple different places simultaneously. Namely, we go to Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. And then for our Instagram guys, we go live there as well. Unfortunately, with Instagram Live, they do not currently support external connections like this, and you're only able to go live from a mobile device. So every time we go live, we actually set up a cell phone to be our Instagram camera, and we just start that live stream at the same time as this. For the other 3 platforms, though, we utilize Restream to essentially do what's called a simulcast, or essentially take one streaming signal and send it to multiple places at the same time. Restream offers a lot of different tiers. There's a free option or paid versions of it, but the free option will allow you to go to the 3 places that we were talking about, YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope, for free, all at the same time. And so it's a really great resource, especially if you want to maximize where your stream's going. Definitely a great one to check out. You'll need to download all of those, so if you are following along at home, just pause the video, download all of OBS and the desktop video, and then start us back up. I already have everything pre-downloaded on this computer, so I'm just going to go back to my desktop here so that I can get everything set up. But one of the most important things with streaming is what I call order of operations. If you remember back to when you were in math class, there's always a proper way to go through a math problem. Same thing for setting up a stream. There's one way to plug everything in, and if you don't plug it in that way, oftentimes the stream will not set up properly. So I'm going to walk you through that order of operations. First, let's go ahead and get our camera set up. Not a lot to do to get that set up today, but there are some settings inside that we'll want to turn on. I already have a battery in here, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this on, and I'll show you guys the settings that we're going to change. The Blackmagic devices are only capable of receiving a 1080p signal in either 24 or 30 frames per second, or it can do 1080 60i. But only one of those 3. So we want to make sure that we go into our menu, and we're going to first set up a clean HDMI output. To do that, there's one setting that we'll want to change first, which is in our movie on page 5. You'll see HDMI display, and I'm going to select that to be sent out so I can see a display on my camera, but also I'm sending out a signal through the HDMI. Various DSLRs may call this something different. The 5D Mark III and older models of Canon DSLRs call it mirroring or something like that. But they'll always have these same icons. So just make sure that you can see a signal on your camera and you're sending one out. From there, we want to change 2 other settings. The first one is the auto off for the camera. Because we're not actually going to be recording internally, the camera is prone to shutting off because you're not going to be hitting a button or changing anything. So we want to make sure that we turn auto off. That's under the wrench icon on page 2 for the 5D Mark IV, maybe on a different page on other DSLRs, but you can typically select a time period, either a minute, 10 minutes, something like that. But I'm just going to go ahead and disable it outright so that it doesn't turn off on us at all. And then the last setting we'll do is on page 4 of the wrench icon for the 5D Mark IV, and that's our HDMI frame rate. And that's really the core of the camera side of the build, is just making sure that you know exactly what signal you're sending out of the camera. Oftentimes when I see people having trouble with these and they've got everything else set up right, it's because the signal that the camera's sending out is not a 1080p 24 or 30 signal. They may be sending a 1080p 60p signal, which the box won't take, or some other form of a signal. So you want to make sure that you know exactly what you're sending out. In this case, it's going to be 1080 2398. And that's all we have to do in terms of menu setup. Of course, we are going to need to set up our exposure settings and all of that. But let's go ahead and get our lens on and get this up on our tripod head here. I'm using the Sattler Ace M tripod today, which is one of my favorite lightweight tripods for DSLR cameras. It can support up to, I think it's 15 pounds, so it still supports a good amount of weight, but it's small and lightweight and very easy to work with. So if you're looking at renting a streaming setup, definitely a tripod to check out. And I'm just going to frame up a shot here with our stand-in Aristotle. You could very easily flip this around and have a shot that was you if you wanted to speak live or something like that. It's all up to, whatever you need. That's everything for camera. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on. You could turn your camera off at this point as we set everything else up, but we will want to come back to there in a moment. Now we are going to set up the mini recorder with our computer. And I'm going to hook this up with Thunderbolt. I always start by plugging into my computer first, and then I'll hook up the mini recorder. At this point, I have not ran any camera signals into the mini recorder. And I've done that purposefully because I want to make sure that the mini recorder has a good connection with the computer prior to sending any video signal or anything like that through. So I'm now going to go over to my desktop and I'm going to launch the desktop video setup. And if everything's connected properly, it should immediately boot up and show the Ultra Studio mini recorder. Now that that's hooked up, I'm going to hit this small little menu icon and make sure that my input is selected to HDMI. And then we'll go ahead and save there. Now that the mini recorder has been properly hooked up, we can go ahead and run camera signal into it. So I'm just going to run a HDMI mini out of the 5D Mark IV. And I'll run that into our mini recorder. Now we can go to OBS Studio. I have it shortcutted right here. And this will be your main landing page for OBS. If you don't have what's called studio mode turned on, it'll look like this. But I always recommend doing studio mode. This is what allows you to see a preview and a program monitor, so you can queue up something to go out and then send it out live. And down here in the bottom left, you'll see scene and sources. Those are your inputs for OBS. You can get very complex here, but for today's purposes, we're just going to add in a video signal. Your scene is what's actually going to go up into your preview or program monitor, and you can add in however many sources into that scene that you would like. I'm going to go ahead and add in a new source, and I'm going to choose the Blackmagic device here. And a pop-up's going to come up. We can name this whatever we want. I'm just going to name it mini recorder. And then it's going to pop up for a properties window for that new source that we've added. On device, you'll see it's now populated with Ultra Studio Mini Recorder. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to want to make sure that video connection is set to HDMI. And then mode, I'm going to select 1080p 2398 to match the output that my camera is sending out. Also important here, you'll see audio connection. I'm going to make sure that's selected to embedded. That way, when I hook up my mic to my 5D, it's going to send that audio straight through. You can see that we've already got an image from our camera here, but I am going to make sure that the settings for OBS are selected properly. So down here in the bottom right, we'll see settings. You can set up however you would like for this, but these are my recommended settings. In general, I'm going to select automatically record when streaming. That's a great option to select so that you have a safety backup created when you're streaming. So as soon as you go live, the computer is going to automatically start recording, and then when you stop, it'll stop. That way, if you want to finish or take the stream that you did and take it anywhere else, you'll have a copy of it that you can work with locally without having to reference the YouTube or Facebook stream that you did. Next, we will go to video here, and I'm going to make sure that the base canvas resolution is set to 1920 by 1080, and that the output resolution is also set to 1920 by 1080. If you wanted to downscale for internet connection or something like that, we could select a lower quality output, and it will downscale the signal but I like to do a 1080p quality just so that it looks good. And then I'm going to make sure that our common FPS value is set to 24 NTSC. From here, to get started streaming, it's just a matter of putting in the stream code. So we'll go to settings here, and under stream, you can select the service that you're going to. Like I said, I like to use Restream, so we can come down here and choose restream.io. And then after you've logged into Restream and gone there, you'll be able to grab your stream key. Just copy that and paste it into the stream key box here, and that will live there permanently. You won't have to change the stream key unless you want to go somewhere new or change the place that you're going to. And then that way, as soon as you hit start streaming, it'll immediately send the signal out. If you wanted to go strictly to Facebook or YouTube, you could select either of those and just go to that service and find the stream key in your streaming settings there. Same process either way, just depends on where you want to go with it. And then we'll just get our audio set up. For the Rode Video Mic Pro, you just need a 9-volt battery that'll pop into the front here. And we'll pop that on top of our DSLR. And power that on. Because we have embedded audio, you'll see if I switch this over to my program, you'll notice that I'm getting levels through the mini recorder. So that my mic right up here, I'm talking and it's hearing my levels and it's passing through the HDMI embedded straight in with my video. And yeah, this would really be all you would need. Aristotle's my stand-in, but that could very easily be your subject who's talking for the stream or anything like that. And this would be bare bones, extremely simple stream for one camera straight into the computer. Just to recap on the bits and pieces that you'll need for this, because we are going to talk about a higher scaled, more complex stream in just a moment. But for anyone out there who wants to recreate what we just did, the pieces you will need would be the 5D Mark IV, the Canon 24-105 lens with a Rode Video Mic Pro on top. You'll need an HDMI cable. It can be however long you need it to be, but just keep in mind that HDMI cables top out at 50 feet. Then you'll need the Ultra Studio mini recorder and the Thunderbolt cable to run into the computer. On the computer, just make sure you have the software that we talked about. That's the Blackmagic desktop video utility, and then OBS Studio. Restream's optional. If you guys want to use that, you certainly can. It's a great service to send to multiple places, but as long as you have all of that, you could do a simple stream just like we did here. But what if you wanted to scale it up and go more complex? You guys have seen, as you've watched our streams, we do a multi-cam live stream every day. We actually have 5 different inputs running right now into one given switcher, and I'll have our camera guy actually pop off and show you guys our control board right here. And you can see all the different inputs that we have. We're running an input from the camera that looks at me, from the camera that our operator's using right now. We have one in the back of house for a extreme wide. I've got one right above me for a top-down setup. And then our 5th input is the computer that I've been using. All of that passes to a live switching board. It's the Panasonic Live Switcher. And then that outputs a signal to a laptop that then handles the stream very much like we just set up. Doing that's very simple. You do want to go with SDI cables though if you're going to do a multi-stream, just because you're going to have a lot of cable running from a lot of different places, and to make it more reliable you'll want to have an SDI connection. With a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, that's very challenging to do because you're going to have to start converting signals, and I generally don't recommend that for live streaming. So I would recommend going with a different camera, and that's the Canon XF705. This camera is fantastic. It is a all-in-one camcorder style camera. It's got a zoom rocker here on the side, broadcast style. It can do 4K high speed, 1080p. It has XLR inputs for audio, and it's just very easy to work with. I've had it used for a lot of different live streams already, but also church broadcasts, things like that. And if you're looking for a simple all-in-one camera, it's really hard to beat. So let's go ahead and replace our 5D with the XF705 here. Same thing with the XF705. You'll want to go through your menu and make sure you've set up a clean HDMI output for 1080p 2398. I've already done that on this. It's actually very, very simple. There's just two menus that you'll need to go through, which is selecting the HDMI output and then the signal that you would like to be sent through it. And then we're going to switch over to an SDI cable. Now this, of course, is still going to be a single camera setup because I don't have a switcher in front of me, but just imagine that there's a switch box in the middle of this and you are switching live from multiple cameras. And I'm going to go ahead and run my SDI through. A few things on the computer side that we'll need to go ahead and change. So we'll go into, we can use the same exact scene setup and everything that we had, but we'll open up our mini recorder again, and we're going to switch our video connection over to SDI. I'll keep my audio connection as embedded, and my mode is 1080p 2398. So you'll notice that we're already getting audio through. Now, if you're doing a multicam setup, audio through one specific camera isn't great because every time you switch away from that camera, you're going to lose audio from that. So how do we solve that? For that problem, I present to you the Zoom H6. Super handy field recorder. If you've never used one before, it is just my go-to on-site field recorder. It can feature up to 6 channels of recording. You can put a mic on the top, and then you have 4 inputs on the side. Very, very useful for audio recording. But a little known secret of it, you can hook it up to a computer through USB and use it as an audio interface for your computer. So let's go ahead and set that up. We'll just plug in a USB 2.0 cable into the same computer that we're using to stream, and I'm going to run that into the side of my device. The device, or the H6, can be bus powered, meaning you don't have to put batteries into it, so it saves on hassle of getting AA's. And when you boot it up, after it's been connected, you'll boot up to this USB mode, and you can select either SD card reader or audio interface. We're going to go ahead and go down to audio interface, and here you can choose to either send a multi-track audio out or a stereo mix of all the sources. Because we're going to a live stream, I prefer to send a stereo mix. That way, if we're hooking up multiple mics, all of them just get mixed together into one signal that the computer has to process. And then we're going to select PC/Mac. And then it'll boot up to your USB audio interface. I'm going to run just a simple shotgun mic into one of my channels so you guys can see what that'll look like. You can scale this however you would like. I would recommend doing a lav mic of some kind if you can, but we're just going to do a very simple shotgun mic today. In OBS, then, we just need to add in the audio input. So first, I'm going to mute these other audio channels because I don't want them sending audio. And then I'm going to add in another source. This source is going to be audio input capture. You'll see it right up here at the top. And it's gonna, we can name this just like we did the other. I'm just gonna call it Zoom H6 Audio Mix. And it's gonna pop up with a properties window just like before. And I'm gonna choose from here, and I'm gonna select H6. Then I'm gonna resend this signal through because it needs to refresh into my program. But you'll notice I now have a third audio input down here called Zoom H6 Audio Mix. And it's getting audio from this shotgun mic in my hand right now. And with this, we could switch whatever input is going into the mini recorder, and it would still be pulling audio from our Zoom H6. I have done this setup for every live stream that we've done so far that's been multicam, and I've never had a sync issue with it. OBS has done a good job of syncing those. There are ways within OBS to offset your audio if you are experiencing syncing issues, so you can go through that. But it should be fairly plug and go and very simple. And with this, you can get set up to have audio from whatever source you need to. So if you're doing an interview panel or something like that, you could have multiple mics coming into this, and you're still laying that over the multicam signal that you're getting. Very super useful to do, and essentially solved the whole audio problem for us for doing the multicam setup. That's how you can scale it out bigger. Naturally, you can go as big as you need to. You could use whatever camera you need to, as long as it's capable of outputting that clean signal. And really good news, if you guys are interested in trying out this setup, we have a really awesome deal going on right now. It's called a flash discount. So if you guys go to our website right now, you'll see it. But the landing page shows all the stuff that's on discount. For the next 7 days, all of those items are very heavily discounted, and you can book them for any time as long as you book within that 7-day window. Much of the gear that we've highlighted throughout these live streams are on there, a lot of our high-end cinema cameras and cinema lenses. So if you guys are interested in trying out any of the stuff that we've been talking about, definitely check that out, because you'll save a bunch of money to be able to try a lot of that stuff out. If you guys were watching this stream and you were seeing me plug things in and talk about software and signals, and it all seemed really complex and way outside your wheelhouse, don't worry. We have a partner over at perfectcircle.pro who can hook you up with an operator who can come out on site to take care of all this hookup and setup so that you don't have to. Takes the hassle off of your back so you can focus on the creative side. So if that's something you guys are interested in and you aren't tech savvy with this, go ahead and check out perfectcircle.pro. Looks like we have a question from someone who's been watching.
We have a few questions.
Yeah.
First one, is this whole setup available, turnkey walk-in, start streaming, just like we are today?
Yes, if you guys are interested in setting up a studio rental, we can definitely set up the same setup that we're doing here. All cameras, multicam setup, so you guys can come into our studio and shoot. Just give us a call and we can set up a quote for you guys if you're interested in doing that setup. We're using C200s, which means you could record 4K if you wanted to, but for streaming it is only going to stream at 1080. But yeah, super, super cool setup. If you guys are interested, definitely come into the studio and you can do exactly what we're doing here today.
Can you just go back through how many audio inputs and outputs you got on the H6 there?
Yeah, so for the H6, you'll have 4 XLR inputs, and then there's an optional either mono or stereo mic that you can attach to the top, which takes over 2 other inputs. So it's total 6 channels, but in terms of inputs, it'll be 4 XLR inputs, so that you could run either shotgun mics or lav mics, things like that.
When you're running that directly into...
Yeah, so that H6 then gets hooked up with this USB 2.0 cable, which runs directly into the USB on my computer as a audio interface, and is sending a stereo mix of all of those inputs straight through. You can use the dials to level here, or you can also go through the menu to set up limiters if you need to. We got another question.
We had a question about if you wanted to have like a start screen or a countdown, how would you manage to do that?
Yeah, if you guys watch our stream, you'll notice that we send a bumper out every time when we start, and we end with a bumper as well. That's very simple and easy to set up. It's just going to be another scene, so we'll switch over to the computer view here. But I'm just going to add in a new scene here, and we'll call it bumper. And then we'll put in a new source for that bumper scene. That source would be a media source here. I don't have that same bumper on this computer, but if you did, you would just do media source, and you could name it, you know, start bumper. Ooh. And then it'll pop up and you'll go through your local files to find the file that you would like to then put up over the top. To show you guys how that would look, I'm actually going to do a different thing that's also very useful to do, and that's add in a empty window of black so that you can start your stream on black and fade into whatever you want to go to. And for that, we'll just add in a color source instead of a media source. And I'm just going to call it black video. And then I'll select the color that I want, which will be black. And you'll notice now that I have a black window here. And if I wanted to switch things in the middle of the stream, I'll just select the thing that I want to switch to, hit the transition button up here, and you'll notice my program window now has changed to my black video, and my preview is now the shot of Aristotle there, and I can hit transition to switch back. Same thing can be done with the media source that you put in, and you can customize a few different settings on that in terms of how it plays as well. A lot of the things that you'll see play over the top of this stream are done in very much the same way. That little video of the flash discount items, for instance, that's a media source. The bumper that'll play at the end of the video, that's another media source, and so on.
And if you wanted to have a countdown, you'd have to make it a media source and start streaming?
Yes, if you wanted to put a countdown in, just create a countdown yourself as its own video. You can find those easily online for free, or create one yourself either in Final Cut Pro or Adobe or something like that. And you would just play that media source and it would do the countdown. Just make sure you put it in the direction you'd want. So if you want to count down from 10, for instance, you just do 10, 9, 8, so on. And then at the end of that countdown, you would just hit the transition button to switch to whatever you'd like. All right, well guys, if you have any other questions about live streaming, comment below and let me know, and I can try and answer those down the road. This is the last daily build of the day that we're going to be doing. Moving forward, we are going to switch up our formula a little bit. We'll still be doing these builds, but we're going to be doing them as a build of the week now. So every Tuesday at 5 p.m. we'll go live with another build. So if there's stuff that you guys want to see, comment below and let me know, and I can highlight different pieces of gear and things in the future with those builds. Stay tuned, because part 2 of our Movi Pro car rig build is still coming. It's just still snowing in Chicago, so we're waiting for some good weather so we can get outside and show you guys how to put that together. So if there's stuff you want to see, let me know, and we'll highlight that down the road. As always, guys, it's been a pleasure. If you have questions, give us a call or visit magrents.com. But I'll plan to see you guys next Tuesday at 5.